At 0512 hours, a $13 billion aircraft carrier moves silently across open water. The formation around it is tight, destroyers on the perimeter, a cruiser guarding the rear, helicopters ready on deck. From above, the USS Gerald R. Ford Carrier Strike Group looks untouchable. But beneath the calm surface of the ocean, 3 silent hunters are already inside the defensive perimeter, and they are preparing to fire. But before we continue, there's one thing worth asking. How did 3 submarines slip beneath one of the most heavily protected naval formations on Earth? The first clue arrives quietly. Inside the sonar room of a nearby destroyer, a technician hears something unusual. At first, it blends into the ocean's background noise, currents, thermal layers, the distant hum of propellers. But the sound repeats. A rhythmic, metallic pulse, propeller cavitation. The operator adjusts his filters. The waveform sharpens. Blade spacing. Rotation pattern. A submarine. Seconds later, another signal appears. Different acoustic signature. Different propeller rhythm. 2 submarines. Then a third. The sonar supervisor studies the data. The acoustic profiles match vessels in the library. Iranian diesel-electric submarines. Likely the Ghadir-class submarine or Fateh-class submarine. Small, extremely quiet, designed specifically for ambush operations. The most alarming detail isn't their presence, it's their position. They're already inside the strike group's defensive screen, and they're spreading out. On the tactical display inside the carrier's Combat Information Center, 3 red icons appear beneath the blue formation. Distance, close. Movement pattern, deliberate. One submarine slides toward the carrier's port side. Another moves toward starboard. The third drifts behind the formation. The geometry is unmistakable. A triangular ambush, a classic submarine tactic designed to trap a large surface target. Inside one of the submarines, the Iranian captain watches his targeting console. Above him is a ship more than 1,000 feet long, a floating airbase carrying dozens of aircraft. But even a vessel that large has vulnerabilities, because torpedoes don't need to sink a carrier. They only need to cripple it. Back aboard the destroyer, the sonar supervisor grabs the communications line. Bridge, sonar, multiple submarine contacts confirmed. The officer on the bridge freezes. How close? Within firing range. Moments later, the alarm echoes across the strike group. General quarters, doors slam shut. Weapons power on. Helicopters spin up on the decks of escort ships. But beneath the ocean surface, the attack has already begun. Inside the submarine's torpedo bay, steel tubes flood with seawater. Compressed air systems pressurize. Target solution complete. The captain gives a single command. Fire. The sonar technician hears it instantly. A violent burst of propulsion, then another and another. 3 torpedoes streak through the water toward the center of the formation, toward the carrier. Impact time, less than 2 minutes. Inside the Combat Information Center, the tactical display turns red. 3 torpedo tracks race toward the fleet, each approaching from a different angle. The carrier reacts immediately. Hard rudder, full power. The ship begins turning, slowly. Even small course changes can alter the torpedo's detonation point. Meanwhile, the destroyers deploy countermeasures. Acoustic decoys splash into the sea. Seconds later, they activate. The ocean fills with artificial engine noises, false propeller signatures, electronic echoes. To a torpedo's guidance system, it suddenly looks like multiple targets are moving through the water. But the incoming weapons keep coming. A ship the size of an aircraft carrier produces a massive acoustic signature. Even among dozens of decoys, it still sounds like a thunderstorm underwater. Helicopters lift from the destroyer's flight decks. These are MH-60R Seahawk anti-submarine helicopters, each armed with sonar buoys and torpedoes. They race toward the submarine positions. The first helicopter deploys its sensors. A network of listening buoys splashes across the ocean. Instantly, the submarine's position appears clearly. Contact confirmed. the helicopter drops a torpedo. Within seconds, the weapon locks onto the submarine's acoustic signature. The crew below hears it. The high-frequency ping of active sonar. Then the unmistakable whine of an approaching torpedo. The submarine dives deeper. Engines push harder. But diesel-electric submarines trade speed for silence. They cannot outrun the weapon. Seconds later, a massive underwater explosion erupts. The first submarine disappears from sonar, destroyed. But the torpedo threat remains. Inside the strike group, defensive systems escalate. From the side of a destroyer, a compact launcher fires a specialized weapon, an anti-torpedo interceptor. This system hunts incoming torpedoes rather than ships. Beneath the ocean, two weapons race toward each other, one attacking, one defending. They collide in a violent explosion. The first incoming torpedo is destroyed. The second torpedo begins drifting. Decoys finally work. The weapon veers away from the carrier and detonates against a false target. But the third torpedo ignores everything. It cuts straight toward the carrier. Distance, 500 meters. Inside the combat center, no one speaks. Everyone watches the countdown. 400 meters. The carrier's acoustic jammer activates. Powerful sound interference floods the water. For a moment, the torpedo hesitates, but then it pushes forward again. 200 meters. 100 meters. A destroyer launches another interceptor. The defensive torpedo accelerates toward the incoming weapon. The two signals converge on the sonar screen. 50 meters. Then the ocean explodes. A towering column of water erupts beside the formation. The interceptor has destroyed the final torpedo. The carrier survives. But the battle is not over, because the submarines that launched the attack are still below, and now their positions are known. The helicopters begin the hunt. Sonar pings echo across the ocean floor. One submarine attempts to escape. A destroyer launches a torpedo. Moments later, another underwater explosion. Second submarine destroyed. The final submarine dives toward the seabed. Engines cut. It becomes completely silent, hoping the ocean floor will hide it. For several minutes, the sea goes quiet. Then a helicopter crew notices something. A faint metallic shift. A tiny acoustic disturbance. Another torpedo drops. Seconds later, the ocean erupts again. The third submarine vanishes from sonar. Within 10 minutes, the entire ambush is over. 3 torpedoes launched, 3 submarines destroyed, and the carrier strike group continues moving across the ocean as if nothing happened. From a distance, the formation looks calm again, orderly, unchanged. But everyone aboard those ships knows the truth. Modern naval warfare can unfold in minutes, and sometimes the difference between disaster and survival is measured in seconds beneath the ocean surface. But here's the real question. If 3 small submarines nearly crippled the most powerful naval formation in the world, what happens when the next attack involves dozens instead of 3?